What if the secret to happiness wasn't about doing more, but about doing less? What if the answers to life's biggest questions weren't found in struggle, but in simplicity? In today's fast-paced world, we're constantly told to work harder, chase success, and push ourselves to the limit. But what if we've had it all wrong? What if the true wisdom lies in not forcing things, in going with the flow, and embracing simplicity? Believe it or not, this little bear, Winnie the Pooh, might just hold all the answers. And in today's book, The Tao of Pooh, author Benjamin Hoff shows us how the simple, honey-loving bear holds the key to living a peaceful, effortless life. So in this video, we're going to uncover the hidden wisdom of Pooh to help us understand the ancient philosophy of Taoism and learn how you can bring more peace, joy, and effortless success in your life without the stress and struggle or the overthinking. We will be covering three main Taoist concepts in this summary: the Tao, Pooh, and Wu Wei. And we will be explaining these concepts with the use of stories from Winnie the Pooh, as this makes it easier to understand. In each section, we will also describe how implementing these concepts in your life can benefit you. So let us begin with the first concept, Tao, also translated as the Way. This represents a fundamental, universal force that flows through all things. It is the natural order of the universe, the source from which all beings arise, and the force that maintains the harmony of existence. Unlike the Western concept of God or divine power, the Tao is not personified. It is an impersonal, undefinable principle that cannot be fully grasped through words or conscious thought. It simply is. And in this definition, I try to give you an idea of what the Tao is. But an important characteristic of the Tao, as recorded by Lao Tzu, is the Tao that can be spoken of is not the constant Tao. And what he means is that language is inadequate in describing the Tao, as this would place limitations on it, and the Tao cannot be limited. We can see other such examples in our own language. For instance, if I asked you to describe happiness, and it would be difficult to explain it to someone who's never experienced it, as it is describing a feeling, and words only give us an idea of what this feeling is. The Tao manifests itself through natural patterns, cycles, and rhythms found in nature and in human life. By aligning ourselves with the Tao rather than resisting it, we can find peace and live in harmony with the natural flow of existence. The Taoists believe that any person can attain this state at any time, and that it's not a process achieved through many years of practice. So now we move on to the second concept, Pooh, the uncarved block. This refers to the simplicity of all things in their natural form, as they contain a natural power. This power is spoilt or lost when we try to change or modify these things. This is also true for humans as well, as we all contain this pure, original nature before we get shaped by society and rules. Just as the uncarved block of wood contains infinite potential before being carved into a specific shape, humans in their natural, simple state possess their greatest potential and authenticity. In Taoism, Pooh symbolizes a return to the natural state of simplicity, spontaneity, and receptiveness, the ability to enjoy the simple and the plain, or the simple things in life. In today's society, much praise and esteem is given to learning and those with a lot of knowledge. But the Taoist way proposes that learning does not always equate to wisdom, and that a scholar's learning can sometimes limit their ability to understand the whole world as it narrows their beliefs. Here the author suggests the character Pooh as the example of the uncarved block, as Pooh displays simplicity, spontaneity, and receptiveness. And the opposite of this is displayed by the rabbit, who is very knowledgeable and always busy and hurrying around. So let's look at an example from the book illustrating the two different types of thinking. One day, Pooh, Pig, and Rabbit were lost in the forest, as there was a thick fog surrounding them. Arriving at a large sandpit, Rabbit exclaimed, "Oh, now I know where we are." Pooh sighed and said, "Yes, I think we've been here a few times now." Rabbit replied, "Well, we went west last time from here, and south the time before, so I think we should go east this time." After another 2 long walks, heading first east and then north, they found themselves once again back at the sandpit. Rabbit exclaimed, "I can't understand it," and sits down defeated. After a while, Pooh says, "Oh, I know the way," and uses his nose to smell his way back to his house. When Piglet asked why he didn't do this sooner, he stated, "With all the commotion and talking of Rabbit, he was unable to think and thus know he was smelling his own honey at home. And what this story illustrates is how the natural simplicity of Pooh allows him to think of a simple solution to a problem, whereas the overthinking of Rabbit did not. Next, we're going to move on to our final concept, Wu Wei. Wu Wei is a fundamental concept in Taoism that translates to non-action or effortless action. However, this doesn't mean doing nothing. Rather, it means acting in alignment with the natural flow of life without forcing or struggling against it. Think of Wu Wei like floating down a river. Instead of fighting against the current, which exhausts you, or trying to control the river, which is impossible, you work with the natural flow. You remain aware and make small adjustments as needed, but you don't resist the essential nature of the river. So, the second aspect of Wu Wei is to try not to change yourself or other people's nature. We are all unique with specific characteristics and desires. To follow the Tao and to align with nature, we need to accept these characteristics and work with them. It is better to be slightly uncomfortable doing what you're meant to than very comfortable being something that you're not. For instance, a pig would be happier playing in the mud than locked up in a fancy room in the palace. It is therefore important to recognize and accept your limitations. So the ultimate goal would be to return to that simple joy of the childlike state, while living in harmony with life. This means accepting and appreciating all of life's experiences, whether good or bad, boring or scary. As Lao Tzu put it, Tao doesn't do anything, but everything gets done. Next, let's look at two stories which help us understand this concept. The first one begins, there was a man who didn't like his shadow or his footprints, so he decided to run away to get away from both of them. As he ran, he noticed that his shadow easily kept up with him, and his footsteps followed closely behind. So he decided to run even faster to ensure he got away from them. But his shadow kept up with him, and his footprints just kept going faster and faster, and they kept up with him. He kept running harder and faster, until he eventually collapsed from exhaustion and died. If we think about this story, if he had just stood still, he would have no footprints, or if he went to the shade, he would have no shadow. And what this story illustrates is that struggling against nature can make life difficult. When you understand it and then work with nature, then you can get the results you want with little action. But sometimes in modern society, it can be easy to get lost in the hustle and bustle of life, and one needs to be aware and always remind oneself of their goals. Let's look at another example illustrating this. So the second story is that of the fisherman. So once there was a fisherman living in a small coastal village. One day, a businessman happened to be visiting the village and came across the fisherman. He noticed that the fisherman had caught several large fish and was quite impressed. Curious, the businessman approached him and asked, "How long does it take you to catch so many big fish?" The fisherman replied, "Oh, just a short while." The businessman then asked, "What do you do with the rest of your day?" The fisherman smiled and said, "Well, I wake up early in the morning, go out to sea and catch a few fish. Then I return home and play with the kids. In the afternoon, I take a nap with my wife, and then in the evening, I join my friends in the village for a drink. We play guitar, we sing and dance all through the night." Hearing this, the businessman saw opportunity and said, "I have a PhD in business management, and I can help you become more successful. From now on, you should spend more time at sea and catch as many fish as possible. With the extra fish, you can sell them and save enough money to buy a bigger boat. With a larger boat, you'll catch even more fish, and soon you'll be able to afford multiple boats and start your own fishing company. And as your business grows, you can open up a factory and start processing and canning the fish as well, increasing your profits even further. Eventually, you'll expand beyond this village and move to a big city." The fisherman listened carefully and then asked, "And after that?" The businessman chuckled and said, "After that, you can live like a king in your own house. And when the time is right, you can take your company public, list it on the stock exchange, and make millions." And the fisherman asked again, "And after that?" The businessman smiled and said, "After that, you can retire, move to a small village, and do whatever you enjoy." So the fisherman replied, "Like wake up early to catch a few fish, return home to play with my kids, take a nice afternoon nap with my wife, and in the evening, join my friends for a drink, play guitar, sing and dance all through the night." This story illustrates how easily you can get lost in improving and bettering your situation, forgetting that all that effort and hard work would have led the fisherman in this example to be in exactly the same situation he was right now. We must thus be careful and review our current goals to ensure they still match the overall goals or our life purpose. So a final question you might be thinking is that if you follow the path of non-doing, then you will have nothing to do all day and no goals to ever achieve. But this is not what the Taoist way means. Goals are still important as they assist us in going through the process which will lead to growth, the ultimate goal of all nature. As if you observe nature carefully, you'll notice growth is a common process in all things. The seedling grows into a tree, the stream grows into a large river. But the emphasis should be on learning to enjoy the time spent trying to achieve your goals, as this consists of more time than the fleeting moments of achieving our goals. What is needed to do this is to first notice the moment before doing something you enjoy. For instance, eating a chocolate, opening a present. The state of happiness right before opening the present is a very enjoyable and even sometimes more enjoyable than the present itself. We want to extend this feeling to encompass the entire period between achieving our goals, so that we enjoy the process of achieving our goals as much as achieving them. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, check out the Tao Te Ching over here, one of the principal books of Taoism.